My name is Rob Dauster. I have Chris Mack here. I have Tyler Hansbrough here. We just talked about a hypothetical matchup between Duke and North Carolina and who would win. I think that we all kind of agree that those are three of the best teams in the ACC. The other team that I think needs to be put in that conversation, who I have no feel on at this point in the season, is Virginia. They're sitting here at 8-1. It feels like when you watch them, Mac, that this is a team that is not as good as a typical Tony Bennett team is. But sometimes it just doesn't matter because all Tony Bennett does is just go out and find ways to win, find ways to guard, find ways to get stops. What do you make of the Wahoos this year, Mac?
Same thing I always make of them every year. You know, there's a saying that, like, good programs, tradition never graduates. I think with Tony Bennett's Virginia Cavaliers, defense never graduates. You know, those guys are going to defend, and it doesn't really matter whether they have first team or second team all ACC offensive type players. You know, they're going to figure out how to guard you. And I think, you know, they got drilled against Wisconsin. But other than that, they've beaten some pretty decent teams. And when I saw them hold Buzz Williams, Texas A&M, to 47 points the other day, I said to myself, Virginia's going to be in it until the end. And they're going to be in it until the end with the way they play on that end of the floor. You know, they got to figure some things out. Kihei Clark graduates. Caden Shedrick transfers. They've got to figure some things out. You know, Royce Beekman can't carry the entire load. They got some younger guys. But I think that because of the way Tony's teams have historically defended, he'll get the most out of guys that maybe aren't household names at this point.
Yeah, Tyler, it's not sexy, but they find a way to get W's, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, they're not going to beat themselves. They're a smart team. They don't turn the ball over. They buy into defense. And it seems like they play high-quality team basketball, which is super important. And Bennett always teaches that. And I don't know how he does it with the style that he does. I could never do it. I'd rather lose games and play a different way. But he finds a way to win ball games. And I do think his style does make him susceptible and vulnerable to losing because of the low-scoring games. If teams can get them out, someone can get hot. But they are a smart basketball team, and they will not turn it over. I like Beekman. I think he's a smart veteran player. Doesn't turn it over. But, you know, Virginia's going to be Virginia.
Well, it's confirmed now that Tyler Hansbrough is not Billy Hoyle from White Men Can't Jump. He doesn't want to look bad and win.
Well, it is amazing. You know, it's a really intriguing point that Tyler brings up, because I always struggled to think, you know, what would Tony Bennett's recruiting visits and talks be like when he has kids that are in the office, and you know that AAU coaches, high school coaches, you know, high school AAU teammates are drilling that kid with, why would you want to play in the half court situation? You know, they walk the ball up. I mean, we all watch it, and he's incredibly successful at both recruiting the type of player that he wants and winning. And that's what matters. But, you know, I think that it'd be interesting when Tony hangs up to find out how many kids that, you know, he just couldn't get involved with or couldn't get to come to Virginia simply because of the style. Probably no way to quantify that, but I'm sure it's frustrating for him at times.
Yeah, but at the same time, you look at it and you look at some of the guys that have come through there and where they end up, right? Like Ty Jerome came in as a 3-star recruit and ended up being, I believe he was a late first, early second round pick. Kyle Guy was drafted. DeAndre Hunter came in there as a top 75 kid and was a number 4 pick. Malcolm Brogdon was a top 100 kid and ended up being ACC Player of the Year. Joe Hare, like they have a legacy of getting guys to the league, right? So I think, yeah, I think like you have to identify. It's not just the players, Matt. It's identifying the personalities that fit into what that program needs. And here's my big question: how do you do that now when everything is transfers, right? How do you do that when you know that maybe some guys don't want to sit on the bench for 2 or 3 years before they get a chance to get in the game?
It's tough. And, you know, it's not just the transfers coming in and trying to acclimate those guys to your system, your style of play, how you practice, how you travel, how you do everything in your program. It's also losing guys that don't play as freshmen, that maybe don't play as many minutes as they thought they would play from freshman to sophomore year. That's happening as well. And that never happened before. And, Tony has been such an incredible developer of players. I mean, you just went through a litany of guys that when they got there were good players, but they weren't household names. They weren't top 25 type players. I can't ever remember like Tony Bennett getting like, hey, look, it's down to, Virginia and Duke for this 5-star McDonald's All-American. He doesn't go after those type guys. Or if he does, he's not getting them. But yet he's producing players that can play in the league and be very effective. So I think his job has gotten harder simply because of the transfer portal on the back end. But he lost the one kid that went back to Creighton from Nebraska, Isaac Trout, who redshirted last year. He lost Shedrick. So it's not easy, but he's certainly doing as good of a job as he always does with his record and his style of play.